Welcome back, everyone. It's here. And today I've got some r/best of for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading you the posts, giving you my opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. This saga was collected by I'm the Lowrider. The original OP is Throw R.A. Crocker Focker, posted to r/relationship advice December 15th, 2020. Content warning for infidelity, suicidal thoughts, kidnapping, and domestic violence. My 44 male, wife 41 female, was recently contacted by her ex-boyfriend / co-writer 36 male, and I've grown a bit nervous. Hello everyone, let me first start by saying that my wife and I are very open, maybe too open about our past and past partners and all that. She's my second wife. My first wife was big on fidelity, and we broke up over her cheating. The first wife and I share a son. My wife also has a daughter of her own from a previous marriage. We've been married for 5 years, and our little blended family works well together. As I mentioned earlier, we're perhaps too open about our past relationships. Her first husband was a serial cheater. He was a musician and slept around with women from his gigs. She stumbled onto his emails, only to learn that he was involved with 5 other women, one of which he'd gotten pregnant. Not wanting their child to grow up in a broken home, she wanted to save the relationship and reached out to one of her old internet friends for advice. We'll call him Chris. The two had been friends for 7 years up until that point, but had never met. They were writing partners. In fact, before they lost contact, they had been writing a novel together. She tells me that when she reached out for support, he was very kind and had actually been recommending a lot of ways to get past infidelity or what you should speak to an attorney about. In general, being a good friend. Somewhere in that, they decided to revisit writing their book again. According to her, they would casually flirt, but as they lived on opposite sides of the country, they had no means to act. In all this, she decided her marriage was dead and stopped trying to fix things. Checked out, I guess. She and Chris expressed mutual attraction, and by the end of the year, he flew out to meet her. She filed for divorce right after the affair got physical, and Chris moved later that year to be with her. To make a long story short, her daughter, who was only 5 at the time, didn't really take to him, as she says he didn't do anything wrong, she just wasn't adjusting properly after the divorce and didn't like somebody replacing her father. My wife told him they needed to take a break due to this, and due to the fact that he's a bit crass sometimes. She had only intended for it to be a short break, but he was apparently so hurt that he'd moved that far to be turned away 2 months in. And so, he broke it off entirely. After months had gone by, they reconnected to try and finish their book. They began sleeping together again during this time, but it was just a physical thing. They came close to finishing the book, but she started dating me. Thus, they stopped sleeping together. She felt weird about having an ex hanging around once she got in a committed relationship, and so, by her own admission, she stopped returning his emails, which were all book-related, with the same frequency, and stopped working on it on her end so much. He grew frustrated after a few months of this and blocked her on everything. Which finally brings us to a month ago. After 4 or 5 years of no contact, he messages her out of the blue. He contracted COVID and nearly died. Chris contacted her because apparently, in that time apart, he rewrote the book without her contributions, managed to get published, wrote and published a sequel, and released his work. His work came really close to not being finished if he died. He wanted to make it known that if something should happen to him, that he wanted the rights of this thing turned over to her, as she knows how it will end and helped create the story. Fair enough, that actually sounds nice. But then, they got to talking. He's apparently writing a comic adaptation, and he invited her to come on board for it. He has a lot of the art done, and she was very excited, showing me and explaining to me who all the characters were, their backstories, what she thinks he got wrong in the design. She also read the first book and is telling me which names he changed, what characters were and weren't in their version, the plot differences, and she seems to be having a lot of fun with it. I knew they wrote together, she's mentioned it before, but I had no idea they had this whole universe created. I can tell it was something that was really important to her. She seems like she might take him up on the offer, and this worries me. Every time they've worked on something in the past, it leads to sex, and there is a bit of sexual content in their writing. I'm not the jealous type, and I certainly don't want to step on a dream she had buried, but I don't want a repeat of history. I'll admit, I decided to snoop their conversation, and while he seems like he's been on the level and is only really discussing the project, she's pressing for information on his personal life. I wouldn't say in a flirty way, but she asked him if he's seeing anyone now, and when he answered no, he's too busy, that relationships just get in the way. She told him he needs to get back out there, that celibacy isn't a good look on him. We're pretty open about our past sex life, so I know her ex-husband was terrible at it. And once when drunk, she said of Chris, "Don't let a great fuck convince you it'll be a great relationship." How the hell do I proceed? I know she was emotionally broken by her ex-husband and that's why she cheated, but she did cheat with this man. I've met him. He seems like an on-the-level guy, but they have a history that tells me something might happen. I want to approach my wife with my concerns, but I don't want to seem like an overbearing, controlling person. I want her to have her creative outlet because she glows in a way I've never seen before when she talks about this book I barely knew anything about. It feels like it's something that was deeply important to her that she forced not to be important. I want that for her, but I don't want their interactions to escalate into something more like they have 3 times already. Update, December 22nd, 2020, 7 days later. A few people suggested I post this here as well, and it was originally posted to r/surviving infidelity. My wife's ex-boyfriend reemerged in her life, asking to work on a mutual writing project that she abandoned years ago that he's achieving financial success with now. I don't know who this woman is. The level of deception so involved and deliberate that I'm hardly capable of comprehending that I've spent the last 6 years of my life with this person. What the fuck happened in those 7 days? I decided to sit down with her and talk about how I felt about this situation, that I was happy she rediscovered her old writing and expressed that it would be cool for her to explore that as a hobby or a profession, as she's quite good at it and clearly enjoys it. At the time, she agreed and said that Chris, her ex, being around wouldn't be a good thing, saying she was worried that he might be using this as a ploy to talk with her again. When she said these things, I was like, okay, cool. She has the same misgivings I do, and she's not minimizing my feelings or calling me controlling. In fact, we're on the same page on how wrong I was. That conversation should have been the end of it, but for some reason my brain started getting weird, and I began thinking it was going too well. Yesterday morning when she got in the shower, I took her phone and went into it. His number was there and their entire conversation had been deleted. It hadn't been 3 days prior. Red flags. Check Facebook Messenger. She's talking about her upcoming trip for work, which takes her to Vegas. Well, apparently, this 2-day-long thing has been canceled due to COVID, but she's been telling me she's going. They're discussing a hotel a town over and staying there as well as sending each other people's vacation photos of Vegas, so she'll have stuff to show if I ask. She's talking about restaurants they can go to, how there will be a full moon when he's here, and it would look great on the beach. Oh yeah, and he's not on the East Coast as he presented. He moved back to town recently since the prick actually has enough money to live here. He showed her on Google Maps where he's living, and it's taking everything I have not to drive my truck straight into his living room. A month ago, she claimed that she had to pack up her brother from the airport. Nope, that was him. The messages don't go back much further than that, but they reference talking about stuff during the years they supposedly haven't had contact. One line I read that he wrote has my heart racing with such fucking madness is from him. Yeah, we're just friends. I don't see you in 8 years and I'm inside you 20 minutes off the plane. Best friends, maybe. So, she's not just planning to fuck him, she's been doing it for months. That trip to her mother's a few weeks back where she stayed the night? Yeah, I haven't confronted her yet, but her smile fills me with so much hate now. I'm going to try my best and hold back on saying anything until after Christmas. The kids don't need the holiday being a constant reminder of this. But honestly, I'm probably gonna snap and confront her today or tomorrow because my ability to swallow this bullshit with a smile is almost impossible. Honestly, I'll be lucky if I could avoid taking a bath with a toaster. I am losing my mind right now. Edit 1. I'm gathering info, pics, and screenshots on her location and speaking with a lawyer tomorrow. Edit 2. I've met with my brother's divorce attorney and we're making plans. I'm documenting everything. I'll text her location, where she's claiming to go. I'm confronting her on the 2nd next month after she goes to the hotel with him. I'm making sure I have my ducks in a row, and I'm trying not to ruin Christmas forever for the kids. Edit 3. The wave of thoughts has passed, and I think everyone who left kind messages for me really got me over the hump. Update. Same post, time of edit unknown. I'd like to thank everyone who offered advice when I first posted this yesterday. It helped keep my mind away from the darker places, and it gave my hands something to do. I've been talking with my brother for support and have continued to monitor their communications. She noticed me acting different, and I told her it was just me having the blues over the anniversary of my aunt's death, which was enough so she didn't start realizing I know all I know. I spent 3 hours today in my car outside of McDonald's using their Wi-Fi to access her emails, and they're using fucking Yahoo Messenger to communicate. She's on this with her tits out in a ton of pics, all of which I'm saving. Real cute. There's one with her pose with flowers I got her for her birthday. They've been sexting since like March. Some select quotes from her. I can't just start talking about the book all the time. I talked about you twice when he and I got together. If I start talking about you in the book a lot, now he's gonna think something's up. You need to shave because that stubble is like knives. Almost had to put chapstick on my chin and under my nose. From him. You're getting it right before you leave here. I want him to kiss you after you spent the afternoon. Ew. Honestly, my compulsion not to beat this man to death is strong. I won't do it, but the fact that he's so, purposefully vicious is making me want to wear his teeth as a necklace. Post 3. I confronted her today. I've never seen someone implode like this. Posted to r/surviving infidelity, December 29th, 2020. As a heads up, I began writing this the day it happened, and I'm not rewriting it. So if some of my feelings don't reflect exactly what my comments were saying in the past couple of days, that's why. I've got some work to do today, so I might not respond to anything for quite some time. I never want to go through anything like this ever again. This was the single most difficult thing I've ever had to do, and I'm twitching like a tweaker every so often now. She left for either work or Chris's today. Not really sure where she went, but she was gone. Tried to check her location, and either she turned off locations or my phone was giving me issues. I don't have the means to serve her. That comes later this week, but I had to confront her before she realized what I was doing, so she wouldn't have any more time to formulate some working lies. Heard my garage door opening and turned on the camera. She comes in completely oblivious. I tell her she ought to sit down because we've got to talk. Deer in the headlights look, but she sits down and asks me, "What's wrong?" I ask, "Why don't you tell me?" She plays dumb, but I see she knows she's been found out. She asks me again, "What's wrong?" I ask her what's really up with Chris. She says nothing. She hasn't heard from him. I redirect and decide to not confront her as directly and tell her that I'm uncomfortable with her working with him and that it's not something I can get past. She's 100% instantly agreeable and asks me very nervously why I changed my mind so quick and why I'm acting the way I am. I just shake my head and say something like, I wanted to be understanding about it, but I got weird vibes from him and I'd prefer they wouldn't talk. She insists that he doesn't mean anything to her anymore, that she was just happy to see the book get made. I told her that he basically stole from her, and she's being way too understanding about that fact, that she ought to sue him over it, and she agrees with me. By now, she's probably thinking she got out of this and is going to break it off with Chris the minute she gets a second to do so. But then, I tell her the whole thing has really stressed me out, and I'm gonna take next week out of work. I tell her that I talked with my son's mother, and she agreed to keep my son that weekend so I could go to Vegas with her. That's why I was talking to my son's mother for so long the other day, working out the details of her taking my son. Or at least, that's what I'd have her think. Deadpan stare. I start talking about how COVID has shut down a lot of stuff, and I'm not even sure what's open in Vegas. She cuts me off and tells me that it was actually canceled today. The conversation from here on goes like this. Paraphrased, of course. Me? It got canceled last month? No, he told us today because he wasn't sure whether or not it was off until today. I know it got canceled last month. What are you doing? Why are you telling me you want to go and then telling me it's canceled? I don't get what you're doing. It was canceled last month. What were you gonna do if I didn't ask about it? You're freaking me out. It was canceled today. What were you gonna do in a town name where her hotel is? What are you accusing me of? How long have you and Chris been back together? We haven't done anything. Did he tell you we were? Don't lie to me. I don't want to read off everything he texted. It almost made me throw up doing it the first time. I can't believe you'd do this. I love you. I'm sorry. He's been texting me a lot lately and saying a lot of messed up stuff, and I don't know how to deal with it. I wanted to tell you this, but I was afraid you'd do what you're doing now. I was just hoping he'd stop on his own. You didn't see him for 8 years, and 20 minutes after he got off the plane, you had sex with him. What plane? What are you reading? He lives on street name. You want to stop this? Just admit what you did so we can move forward with this. Why did you tell me he lived in East Coast? Did he say something to you? He lies constantly. It's part of the reason why we broke up. I told you that. I know I shouldn't have responded to his messages. It's always drama with him. All his messages were fine, but he started with the missing me stuff again, like always. I was going to tell you. He wanted you to come home and kiss me after you were going down on him. I read your messages. I saw them in your email and in your texts. You're cheating on me, and I want you out of this house. Today. What? I'm not cheating on you. If you don't want him around, I'll tell him to get lost, but honey, I'm not cheating on you. Is that what he told you? He's lying. Stop it. I told you I went in your messages on your phone. You're going to get your stuff and you're going to go to your parents. I made copies of your emails and screenshots from your texts. I don't want to show them what you two say to each other, but if you're going to keep lying to my face, I will. We're done. Go get your stuff. She tried even in the face of all that to play stupid and lie, but finally, tired of it, I broke out my copies of their texts and handed them to her. She looked down at them for 2 seconds and then broke down, crying hard. Like I've never seen her this devastated by anything. I even felt bad for her for a little while. She said she was sorry that it got out of hand and she wanted to put the brakes on it, but he had gotten possessive and was threatening to expose her if she ended it with him. I told her that none of that was in her texts and that she is still lying to me. She was going to go off and spend the weekend with him. She then told me it's done between them and she'll make him go away. She won't ever talk to him again. I told her I don't care what she does, but I've been talking to a lawyer and the divorce papers will be ready soon. At this point, she explodes and repeats, "You've been talking to a lawyer?" Like 4 or 5 times, and honestly, I was ready to call the cops because she's closing in on me and really screaming now. I tell her to calm down, that I have a camera going. She then continues to break down and not resemble anyone I've ever met before. Kept saying stuff like, "You just planned all this out." Smiling to my face, just planning all this out. Which every time she did, I responded with the same, "Well, look at what you've been planning and smiling to my face while you're out doing sex acts." I asked her why she'd do this to us, and at first she couldn't give me a straight answer. She tried to tell me it was meaningless sex, so I responded with, "Oh, so you ruined us for no reason then. That's great." After a bit, she sort of got quieter, and I don't know if she was being honest or just trying to hurt me, but apparently, she really messed up with him in her eyes. She called him her soulmate, and I nearly started breaking stuff. I asked her why she didn't just ditch me for him in the beginning. I would have understood then, and she says she just needed to get away from him because she knew how bad she'd look to her family if she brought him back around. Apparently, they didn't like him either. She also said that she could never and can never actually be with him because her ex and daughter would fight her on this. so going back to him legitimately was never an option. She then said she was sorry and seemed to be in disbelief with how final I was with everything. She told me how much of a mistake it was, how much she would change and do whatever I wanted her to just to fix the situation. I told her no. She then told me we weren't getting a divorce because she can make amends for this. I told her there was nothing she could do to earn my forgiveness. I will not forgive this ever. And somehow she had the gall to be shocked by this. I told her then I opened an account in another bank and moved half from the joint account into it this morning, and that the rest is hers. She can either get it herself or I can get it for her, but the account is getting closed. She just nodded along and said we'd probably both have to go to the bank together to close it. She went and started packing her clothes up, peacefully, crying a little, and oddly enough, making threats every so often that she had better not have anything missing. I let it roll off my shoulder and told her to take pics of how she left her things and daughter's things, so when she comes back, she'll see I didn't touch anything. Her folks have been contacted and they're in disbelief. They're both surprised that Chris is even a factor in any of this, and spent time apologizing to me. And soon after, she was out of my house. The next day, soon-to-be ex hit my phone with so many "I love you, I'm sorry, we can fix this" texts that I contemplated flushing my phone. I wanted to just turn it off, but my son's mother had my son, so I needed it just in case of an emergency or a change in plans when he was coming home. So I started responding to her texts by sending screenshots of the worst parts of their conversation and saying nothing of my own. My son's mother returned with my son and brought dinner from my favorite Chinese place. I didn't give my son the exact reason when I told him, but he asked flat out whether she cheated, because it was so sudden. And I told him he was right, without elaborating. They stayed for a while before returning home, and I've just been kind of floating around the house trying to keep it together. It's like 2 or 3 days since I began writing this, and I'm off to the gym. And then my lawyers. This thing is already way too long, and things are updating so rapidly that I could be typing forever and never finish. My soon-to-be ex's ex-husband is going to come by and collect his daughter's things, and I'll explain to her the best I can that if she ever needs me, I'm just a phone call away. I'm also contemplating telling her ex that she ran around with Chris on him as well because she said so many times he doesn't know. But maybe I won't. That accomplishes nothing, really. Anyway, first fight has been fought, and it looks like I'm winning as much as one can win given the circumstances. Part of me wants to confront Chris, but I'm smart enough that all that would be a waste of time and energy. Time better spent working or hitting the gym or finding some way to thank my son's mother for being an absolute MVP in my corner through this. Anyway, that's all I got now. Sorry if this is disjointed, but it's taken me a couple of days to write, and of course, developments keep happening. 3-month progression update. Posted to r/surviving infidelity, March 14th, 2021. Just before Christmas last year, a little over 2 months ago, I discovered that my wife had been cheating on me with an old boyfriend. They had planned for a romantic weekend together, which I ruined for them when I confronted her. This'll be long, so as an update, I've mostly got no contact with my soon-to-be ex. I tried just communicating with her through my lawyer if we had a real reason to talk, but that made me feel like a child that was avoiding confrontation. Even if that wasn't the case, and I decided to speak with her myself a few times. If you've been following the lengthy comment streams from my previous posts, you already know what was discussed, but I'll write everything here as if it's the first time I'm doing it. The soon-to-be ex at first was all over the place with how she talked about Chris. One minute he was her soulmate, and the one that got away. The next, he was a predator that would not leave her alone. Our family and friends have all heard the truth by now, and most of them have taken my side on the matter. Given the details I provided in my lengthy Facebook post, there was little room to side with her anyhow. She's since moved into her parents for the time being, and I remained in my home. It was acquired many years before I even met her, so that's not even an issue divorce-wise. Strangely enough, Chris, the affair partner, decided to write me this huge harangue, of a letter. For what reason, God only knows. I got the impression from it that she must have dumped him in anger shortly after I gave her the boot because it's laden with stuff like, "We were repairing our relationship when you stole her from me. I've loved her for X amount of years, so don't post stuff online about how I'm a cheat." It really made me see red, and I wanted to do the man some serious physical harm, but once again, I saw reason. Life has been pretty lonely in this house since she and my stepdaughter moved. The stepdaughter's room is still empty, and I have to leave the door closed because seeing it empty always hurts me, and I can't bring myself to do anything with it yet. She has a father, and he's a good dad, and because of him, I still see her once during the week. I take her for bike rides, or we go grab something to eat together. I asked her once if she felt comfortable eating at my house, and the poor thing just started crying. She loves her grandparents but doesn't like living with them, so she's been spending more time with her father. Her old man has invited me over a couple of times for a beer, and we had a few conversations about our mutual ex. And Chris. I think I mentioned in the comments on my last post, but he knew the entire time she was cheating on him. I see my son and my son's mother a lot more now. One of my weekdays lines up with their schedule, so I'll stop in for dinner. And I've been keeping him an extra day for my weekends, and she'll generally join us for dinner on Friday night. I've asked my son if he wants to talk about how he feels concerning my upcoming divorce. And he's not saying it's so much, but he's hurting. The first couple of times he just got this far-off stare and was like, "I don't want to even think about her." And that he loved her and didn't expect her, of all people, to do this to him. And it really hit me when he said that. We always think about how someone's affair does to us, like it's an act of malice against us, but what she did to me, coming from him, hurt me more than anything she could ever have even done to me. I've discussed therapy with he and his mom, but he insists he's alright, and if he feels he can't handle it, he'll talk to us. He's a mature kid, and I trust his judgment, usually pretty upfront with how he's doing. He and I, actually, for the first time in private, discussed the divorce between his mother and I, and the reasons behind it. I really didn't want to at first, as he's currently raging about adultery, and he has a great relationship with his mom. But he was asking about it, so I opted for polite honesty. I told him his mother hurt me just as much, but what she did was just a very poor choice, and that I'm not upset about it anymore. But it took a while. Speaking of my son's mother, she had my back through much of this. She's pretty much the reason I started having dinner with them one night during the week and keeping my son longer, because she insists I'll do better to not be constantly alone in that house. A lot of people have suggested that she and I reunite. If I was to ever come to that decision, I would want to wait to be done with some therapy sessions, perhaps couples therapy, if she was anywhere in this ballpark. We did briefly discuss our own divorce and the infidelity that led to it. I've moved past it and don't feel too fazed by it anymore, but she talks about it like she just got caught. It's not the first time I've done so, but I told her that I forgive her for it. I even added this time that given more consideration to how she described the encounter, it's likely she was preyed on by some creep because she had too much to drink. This wasn't a guy she knew very well and had only seen around her place at work a few times, as if I'm remembering this right, either didn't work in her area or worked at a separate location. In either case, she has literally not seen him since, like a few days after it happened. It's a little tough thinking about that too, because even though it doesn't bother me on a regular basis anymore, the fact of the matter is, I was really loving my life up until she broke the bad news to me. The soon-to-be ex kind of smoothed things over for me when that relationship started, but once again, right as I'm feeling my life is great and I'm happy, infidelity messes that up for me. Kind of makes me really unwilling to even consider another relationship if this is what all my time and effort leads to. All that said, I'm taking a trip to Disney World this July to try and wash my mind of all this. Originally, it was supposed to be me, my son's mother, and my son, but I've managed to talk to the soon-to-be ex into allowing my stepdaughter to come along so she won't feel excluded. She'll probably just use the time to bang her next unfortunate soul, but that's not my problem anymore. Real quick, and this is bothering me quite a bit, and I want to bring it up because of how, I guess, avoidant OP is talking about it, and maybe we'll learn more about it, but it sounds like his first ex-wife may have been assaulted, or at a very minimum, there was some serious predation involved. It almost sounds like that while she was extremely intoxicated, a coworker who she barely even knows or interacts with took advantage of her. And maybe she really struggled to communicate that or come to terms with it, because it is very common for someone who has alcohol in their system to be taken advantage of and then blame themselves for that encounter. And I'm definitely kind of going off on a limb here when talking about this, but I worry that she blamed herself for what happened while she was overly intoxicated and taken advantage of, and then he blamed her for being taken advantage of. And that, I'll leave my input as that for now, just in case things get further expanded upon. Update. Posted to r/surviving infidelity, May 27th, 2021. Should be divorced by July, and I cannot wait. Hello again, everyone. It's about 6 months from my first post on here. In short, out of the blue one day with my wife of 5 years claimed an ex-boyfriend she used to write with suddenly appeared again, wanting to know if she could work on an old mutual project together. Well, as you might have guessed, she was having an affair that went back for quite a long time. Their dirty emails to each other disgusted me, as they were extremely, almost intentionally hurtful. It wasn't bad enough for her to cheat on me, but he said he wanted her to go home and greet me filled with him, so to speak. I held my shit together for the kids for Christmas. She has a daughter, and I have a son. I confronted her, threw her out, and went as no contact as I possibly could. Her affair partner, Chris, sent me a few messages following the fact, claiming that I have no reason to be upset because in his eyes, I stole her from him. And he'd been holding this one-sided grudge for the last 5 years and talked as if we had been enemies for quite some time. In short, my soon-to-be ex's family never approved of him, so she dumped him. She went on to claim they were soulmates, and that's why she couldn't turn him away. Well, I've been keeping my health, working out, continuing to work from home, but that'll be over soon. I've kept contact with my stepdaughter through her grandparents and her biological father, whom she also cheated on with this man. Though he's cheated on my soon-to-be ex multiple times, he's an alright guy to have a beer with, and for all his faults, he seems like a good dad. I see her twice a week now, never overnight, and even still, I've kept her former room empty because it's too depressing for me to consider doing anything else with it. She's been my princess, and she's always excited when she comes to visit, or I show up to take her to dinner or for bike rides. After a bit, my son has decided that he thinks he could benefit from therapy and has been seeing a doctor. His mother, my first wife, and I have been keeping a close eye on him, as he was pretty close to his stepmother. She's tried to contact him and apologize, but he doesn't want to speak to her. He began getting impulsive and had bouts of angry outbursts unrelated to her, and it was then I asked him if he thought he might do well with therapy. He told me how betrayed he felt by what she'd done, that he hated her. He missed his stepsister, and he wanted everything to just be erased. And I really felt for him. I don't think we've talked heart to heart or hugged one another in our entire lives more than we have in the past few months. His mother has really been at my side through most of this, and we've gotten a lot closer too. At first, she was inviting me over for dinner a couple days a week because she thought it was unhealthy for me to spend so much time alone in an empty house. I'm around steadily more now, and many nights a week, we eat dinner like a family. My folks and her folks have both taken notice of this and have both been asking us whether or not, seeing as things are going on so well, if we'd consider reconciling. We said we're both happy with things as they are, but knowing everyone is talking about us makes it difficult for us not to talk about it ourselves. Minus the physical affection, we're basically acting really similar toward one another like we did when we were married, which is comforting and warm, but that's soon going to get to a place where it needs a good long talk about. All that's been said thus far is nothing is going to be attempted or even discussed until our son's life is normalized. These changes hurt him. As for my soon-to-be ex and how things are going on that front, from what I've learned, she's just bought herself a condo and moving on with her life. Her mother and father are deeply ashamed of what she's done, and in their words, my stepdaughter is frequently back-talking her mom. I'd like to report to you all that she's gravely suffering or is a weeping mess, but no. Soon-to-be ex seems like she's off to go ruin another guy's life. I did, however, cross paths with Chris at a grocery store last month. He turned pale white and I pointed him out to my brother, which I shouldn't have done. He started following him around and shouting variations of, "Fucking Prince Charming over here! Fat loser's gonna eat both those Red Barons tonight before he starts texting your wife, guys!" I forced us to leave and we'll be shopping elsewhere. Though I did get a good laugh out of it. Next update, somewhat. Just digging around an old laptop and came across this gem of a conversation. I've changed the names, but here is basically a cut and paste version of how deceitful these two were. Posted to r/surviving infidelity, July 14th, 2021. All of the following text messages were sent on January 20th between a 30-minute window between 1:59 p.m. all the way to 2:29 p.m. This way I don't have to read the date and time between every message. I do wonder that when during the formatting if perhaps the dates were slightly messed up and if this is meant to take place during December and not January. Ex-wife starts. I'm not sure if I'm being paranoid, but I feel like my husband is growing suspicious. I don't know what I should do. I'm trying to act normal, but I'm really starting to worry. I'm probably just paranoid. He's not tracking my phone or computer or anything. He does try to look over my shoulder or take peeks at my screen though. I don't stop him when he does. All the times he has peeked, we weren't talking about anything worth suspicion. Chris responds. I think the best way to go about this is to not change your routine. If you get any more distant, he might catch on, but if you become too friendly, same logic applies. If you could do anything, I would say perhaps talk about the story, like in a complete professional way and exclude me from it when you do, so it'll seem like a business-friendly relationship rather than an old boyfriend. But I don't know him. I've met him that one time. Usually I have the honor of sizing up the other half's mental capacity, but I'm flying blind with this and completely trusting you. I say you remain exactly as you are. No change in routine unless you think the book suggestion works. Ex-wife responds. Okay, that's exactly what I was thinking. Good. He can be a genius or a complete idiot. And he's very reserved, so sometimes his body language is hard to read, but yes, I need to start talking about the book, because I think he's wondering why I'm on here all the time with you. I haven't mentioned the book at all. Chris responds, make an offhand remark. Oh, he's goddamn whining about his boyfriend again. He needs to leave the prick, lol. I know he lives in Wisconsin. Stop whining about it. Not sure what that's in reference to. Ex-wife responds, no, he thinks you're still married and have a son. And you're one of my old writing friends. That's pretty much all I've said about you aside from our fling at the end of her ex-husband's name. Okay, well, if you have to, or the subject gets brought up, think of some small romantic cheesy gesture I did for my wife, and I say I looked like a sissy for it, lol. The best way I'm not a threat is if my family and yours are somewhat relatable. The more domestic I appear, the better. Yeah, I agree, but I don't want to start talking about you lots either. I have it in the past, why should I now? If he asks, I'll make up stuff on the fly. Exactly. I think I'll start getting excited about the book now. That way if I seem giddy or stressed, I can use that as an excuse. When you do, mention my wife is doing concept art for it, and that's one of the reasons it excites you. It's not a stretch. It establishes I'm domestic and that she's well aware of my activities. And if she's not worried, why should he be? Yeah, I see that. Okay, I can handle this. It's probably all in my own head anyways. Yes, it probably is. If an accusation comes at all, just have something ready like, no, oh my god, he's married and he's obsessed with his wife. He was telling me all his pet names and I almost signed off. LOL. LOL, okay. Sorry, I have a lot of ready-made plots. The Smurf, question mark, what the hell does this mean, is usually checking my phone. There's nothing. We're not new at this. Well, it won't be nearly as complicated, seeing as any change in your behavior will be only momentary. True. I think I can do this. You'll be fine. We've done it before. No, I know I can do this. You've got it. In my obsessive-compulsive nature, it is taking, everything in me to not make a list of things to do before I adventure, lol. I usually hide all my flaws, but no. You get to see and hear about all of them, lol. You poor thing, you must think I'm neurotic. I like seeing this side of you. I don't think you're neurotic, but the paranoia, the planning, your excitement, makes me feel good that I can still excite you this much. For your sake, I'll let you take credit for most of that then. I'm paranoid without reason, also, but you've most certainly elevated it to a new level. Ugh, gross. Just how highly Chris thinks of himself. Usually I have the honor of sizing up the other half's mental capacity. Dude actually thinks he's all that. Final update. Posted December 3rd, 2021, a year later to r/surviving infidelity. It's been a year since D-Day. There's been kidnapping, assault, and hospitalization since my last post. This week, a year ago, I was sitting around trying to process my ex-wife telling me about her ex, Chris, approaching her with aspirations of writing a book based off their previous work together. It was an obvious front to further their ongoing affair, and I was so stupid not to see it. Anyhow, I confronted her and threw her out, and she went to live with her parents, taking her stepdaughter with her. I maintained contact with my stepdaughter for quite some time, and still do make time for her, but she's had it worse than anyone. I guess I'll give an update to that first. My stepdaughter was essentially kidnapped by her biological father sometime after my last update. I've said it before, but her father is not from my country, and has citizenship from the country he came from. Every couple of years, he would take his daughter to his country to see his family. But this time, he refused to send her back home. His given reason was that our mutual ex was poison, and he wanted his daughter away from her. In the end, he shot himself in the foot on that front because 2 months later, he caved to pressure from his own family and sent her back, and is not returning because he'll most likely be arrested if he returns to the States. So he removed himself as a good influence in her life and left her in the hands of someone we both consider poison. Things did not get better from there on my ex's side of things, shortly after the divorce was finalized, but before her ex-husband ran off with the child, she had begun dating a new man. I was unaware of this until my former in-laws contacted me to say that she'd been hospitalized. She and Chris, her affair partner, had, as many guessed, began sleeping together again, and from what former mother-in-law told me, she broke it off with him again to pursue a new man. Chris took her to a Motel 6 where he sprung it on her that he was sick of being treated how he was treated. When she tried to walk back to her car, he snapped, picked her up over his head, and slammed her down on the concrete parking lot. He attacked and drove off before stomping on one of her hands and then choking her so hard she had dark purple bruises and a fractured vertebrae in her neck. There's mention of a Good Samaritan. I assume that he probably meant to say that a Good Samaritan had found her and assisted her, but I assume that while typing everything out, it kind of got jumbled in there by accident. Thankfully, he's behind bars now and is facing a slew of assault charges and perhaps even attempted murder, but I've not followed up on the legal aspects of any of it. She is in physical therapy and in recovery, as she was also concussed in the assault and is pretty hazy a lot of the time. No matter what she did to me, seeing her in this condition breaks my heart. My stepdaughter spends a lot of time with me these days as I'm trying to do what I can to help in the situation. She's understandably not in the best spirits, but spending time with my son's mother, and I, at least gives her a solid place to stand. That just leaves me my first wife, my son's mother. A lot of people have expressed a desire to see us reconcile, and in many ways, we have. Neither of us is pushing the other back into a relationship, but we have discussed our past, the infidelity that separated us, and the fact that she's been forgiven by me. We aren't officially back together, but it isn't uncommon for us to spend the night at each other's place. And as we speak, it's been 5 days since we've slept in different houses. We sleep separately, as I'm sure this all confuses my son, but we've been intimate regularly, over a month now. It's going nice and easy. Nobody is pushing for anything more than what we have, and for the moment, it's working out. I could go on for many more paragraphs, but I think I'll wrap up this update and answer questions as they come. Some comments from OP. User Terser78 comments. So, you're just friends with benefits with your ex? Very confusing for your child, and I hope you're considering your ex's feelings here too. If she wants more but you do not, then it's a big disservice and ultimately re-traumatizes your son with so much change. I hope y'all are talking about what y'all are doing and what your feelings are instead of just rug sweeping and letting things happen. Your son has been through so much garbage. He doesn't deserve to be put through more intentionally or unintentionally. OP responds, "My ex and I are careful not to be domestically affectionate beyond the bounds of what we already were when my son is around. For instance, if they're at my place, she sleeps in the guest room. If we're at her place, I'll crash on the couch if I don't feel like driving home late. We've only been physical when he's at school and are careful not to act like we're a couple when he or my stepdaughter is around. Believe me, we both know the damage this could do, and we're doing what we can so we can have our fun and test the waters of being together again without hurting him by giving his hopes up. I do consider what she wants, and if she wants more than what is going on, we can sit down and talk about how and if that's going to happen." Comment from Initial Impact 5779. "Man, we were all wishing for karma on your second ex-wife, but damn, that's brutal. Like, I want to say she got what she deserved, but damn, man. Has she spoken to you since the attack? Does she finally realize how bad Chris was?" OP responds, "I visited her at the hospital and lectured her for whatever reason. According to her, they had stopped the affair shortly after I confronted her. He got possessive and claimed that now that I was out of the way, there was no reason they couldn't be together. She explained to him that everyone knowing she cheated with him made it less likely they would ever be a couple. And he was like so severely emotionally devastated by this that he was crying really intensely. She felt bad and decided that ending things more slowly would be better. And after explaining that to him, he seemed alright, and the affair continued. She started backing him off and didn't see him for like a month, and he stopped being emotional with her in any way, but they still slept together. It's only when she announced that she was trying to date again that he snapped. He deserves to be buried under the prison for what he did, but she really has to accept that she ruined this man's life. Taking his assault out of the equation, she ruined him." Use your Bonanza 86 comments. This is going to be a random question, but I do recall you saying you were going to take your family to Disneyland earlier this year. If you did, how did everything go? OP responds, "I had intended to go to Disney World, but arranging the travel during that time was really hectic, and as for Disneyland, we never ended up going. Next year, though." So, that was a lot. I really hope that in the end, OP takes things slow with his previous ex-wife, and they really feel things out so that way their son doesn't just feel like he's constantly reliving divorce as part of his life. I also think that not just OP's son needs therapy, but I really think OP might as well, in addition to the ex-wife. Especially potentially looking into and exploring what happened that night that she was unfaithful all those years ago. I was hoping for potentially any more information. I can understand why there wasn't, but it does leave a lot of questions. Was it a willing encounter, or does she blame herself for what happened that night? And that's honestly something that could really only be unpacked in potentially therapy, or couples therapy, or something along those lines. Either way, those two have moved past that, personally, on a personal level, and I'm also really hoping that the stepdaughter is able to find where she belongs, because it sounds like her current condition is just a mess. Her father tried to kidnap her to get away from her mother, who was, just as they all said, poison, and definitely not the best influence. I also don't know if I would call her father a good influence either. And now she's kind of in this weird situation where she's living with her stepdaughter. I wonder if there's any open fields for adoption or something along those lines in the mix. As for the most recent ex-wife, she deserved karma, but not that. She deserved pain equal to what she caused, not being put into a state of recovery and having lasting trauma done to her body. I'm still left thinking about some of those text messages, though, that were being sent between, Chris and the ex-wife. I mean, it really just does come across that they think they're impossible to catch, and that no matter what they do, they're in the right in this scenario, or that OP is just simply too stupid to catch on, despite the fact the ex-wife did have a moment where sometimes he's an idiot, sometimes he's a genius. I've had to deal with looking at text messages like that myself, and they always just are kind of a gut wrench to have to look at, because you get a taste of, oh, this is how I'm actually seen, huh? Okay. It's just not a fun thing to encounter. I do hope OP the best. I do hope that maybe you consider therapy for yourself. But in the end, as with how every video is, don't forget, gamer subs, use code KEYZ at checkout, and every purchase made supports the channel directly. If you don't want to commit to a $40 tub of caffeine powder, $36 if you use code KEYZ at checkout with a 10% off, you can always try a free sample out. Many of you have been doing so, and a lot of you have reported in the comments that you are very happy with how the flavors are, and have thus actually then turned around and purchased a ton of tubs in response, which is phenomenal to see. So yeah, anyways, I'll catch y'all next time.